Hey there, friend. Before we dive into tonight's story, take a moment. Look at the time. What time is it for you right now, and from which country are you watching this? Drop it in the comments because tonight, we're traveling far away, beyond your screens, beyond your cities, back to a time when peace was just a rumor, and walls were the only thing keeping fear outside. After the fall of Rome, Europe went feral. Civilization hit pause, and chaos pressed play. Raids, revenge, and terrible hygiene ruled the land. Everyone with a sword wanted land. Everyone with land wanted walls. And thus, the first castles were born, small wooden forts built on man-made hills, called motte and bailey. They were quick to build, cheap, and impressively bad at not burning down. Fire, wind, rain, even a mildly angry goose could threaten your defenses. Raiders called them kindling. Lords called them temporary. But hope is stubborn, and for a while it worked. Then someone had the genius idea. Maybe buildings meant to survive attacks shouldn't be made of wood. Enter stone, the medieval upgrade patch. Stone didn't burn, didn't rot, and looked intimidating enough to stop peasants from asking for raises. Of course, it wasn't cheap. You needed an army of masons, carpenters, and unlucky laborers dragging tons of rock up muddy hills. But when the final stone was laid, the Lord would stand on his tower and declare, "This land is mine, and possibly God agrees." The Normans took this obsession to Olympic levels. After invading England in 1066, they covered the landscape with castles, over 1,000 of them within a century. Each one a stone-carved middle finger to anyone thinking about rebellion. Life inside, however, was far from royal. No comfort, no plumbing, and windows smaller than your phone screen. Lords lived in drafty halls, surrounded by guards and paranoia. Yet castles became more than fortresses. They were symbols of power. In a world without social media, this was how you bragged. The taller your tower, the larger your ego. Every stone screamed, "I'm richer, smarter, and slightly more paranoid than you." From the valleys below, peasants looked up and saw not just walls, but the very shape of power, cold, distant, and eternal. So tonight, as you sit safe behind your own walls of concrete and Wi-Fi, remember the castle wasn't just built for war. It was built for pride, fear, and the timeless human dream of feeling untouchable. Because in the Middle Ages, the higher you built, the closer you thought you were to heaven. Before we continue, take a moment and look around you. Imagine a time when the world had no cities, no electricity, and the only law was survival. After the fall of Rome, Europe was a patchwork of chaos. Villages burned, rivers ran wild, and every man with a sword dreamed of land. Wood was cheap, fast, and easy to shape. And so, the first castles rose on man-made hills. The humble motte and bailey, but wood had its weaknesses. Fire devoured it, rain rotted it, wind shook it. Even a mischievous goose could destroy months of labor. Raiders called them kindling. Lords called them temporary. Hope was their only armor. Yet for a time, these simple wooden fortresses worked. Barely. Then came the revolution. Stone. Heavy, cold, and unyielding, it didn't burn. It didn't rot. Stone was permanent. It was the medieval version of saying, "I am untouchable." Building a stone castle was no easy task. Tons of rock had to be quarried, carved, and hauled uphill by oxen and men, often in rain, mud, and freezing winds. Every stone placed was a statement. Every tower erected a challenge to fate. And when the final stone was set, the Lord would stand atop the walls, gazing down at the valley and proclaim, "This land is mine, and perhaps God favors me." The Normans mastered this art of intimidation. After invading England in 1066, they covered the land with castles, over 1,000 in just one century. Each one was a monument of power, a warning to anyone who dreamed of rebellion. The higher the tower, the sharper the message. Look up and know who rules. Inside these stone fortresses, life was harsh. Windows smaller than your modern phone let in little light. Halls were damp and cold. No plumbing, no comfort, no heat, and constant fear of betrayal lurked behind every door. Yet castles became more than fortresses. They became symbols of status. In a world without Instagram, the only way to flaunt wealth and power was literally carving it into the landscape. Every turret, every gate, every wall screamed, "I am richer, smarter, and slightly more paranoid than you." Every lord competed to outbuild his neighbor. Moats were dug deeper. Towers grew taller. Villages below were reminded daily of who held the power, quite literally, because the castle loomed over them, unmovable and eternal. And so, stone castles became the ultimate combination of defense, ego, and artistry. Tonight, as you watch from your safe screen, imagine hauling each stone, carving each arrow slit, building not just a fortress, but a monument to fear, ambition, and pride. Because in the Middle Ages, to build a castle was to declare to the world, I exist, I endure, and I will not be forgotten. The stone castles rose, cold and unyielding, dominating valleys and rivers alike. But inside those thick walls, life was far from easy. Lords soon realized that survival wasn't only about keeping enemies outside. Often, the greatest threat came from within. Every servant, every cook, every guard could betray them, steal food, reveal a hidden passage, or leak secrets to rival lords. Paranoia became as essential as the walls themselves. Privacy didn't exist. Bedrooms were locked, corridors were patrolled, and even the smallest windows, the arrow slits, served double duty to see without being seen. Comfort was a distant thought. Safety and control came first, and with them, the need to display power. Every tower, every turret, every intricately carved battlement screamed a message. I am here. I am dominant. I am untouchable. Stone castles were more than military structures. They were statements. Lords competed to outbuild each other, investing massive sums of money, manpower, and months of labor. Higher towers, deeper moats, thicker walls, all became symbols of wealth, ambition, and influence. In a world without social media, these monuments carved in stone were the ultimate display of supremacy. Inside, hundreds of craftsmen, laborers, and masons worked tirelessly. Some carved stones, others forged iron, and some simply yelled orders. Together, they transformed raw rock into fortresses that could survive siege, fire, or even betrayal. And the lords? They observed from above, calculating, directing, ensuring their position remained unchallenged. Yet life in the castle was far from glorious. The halls were cold, damp, and smelled of smoke, sweat, and animals. Nights were long, filled with the creak of timber and the distant echoes of the valley. Every meal, every gathering, was layered with caution. And still, amidst fear and anxiety, castles became masterpieces, symbols of human ambition, pride, and fear. From below, peasants looked up at these towering stone fortresses with awe and trepidation. Each castle was a story etched in stone, a fortress built for war, and a monument to the lord's insatiable desire to be remembered. The higher the towers, the more unapproachable the lords seemed, and the louder their silent declaration, I exist, I endure, and no one can take this from me. As castles grew taller and walls thicker, lords began to understand that defense was more than stone and mortar. The location of a castle could determine the fate of everyone inside. Hills were preferred not just for the dramatic view, but because gravity became an ally. Every step an invader took uphill was labor, breath, and vulnerability lost. From the top of a hill, a lord could see his enemies approach days in advance, planning every defense and mockery with equal precision. Moats were another layer of strategy. Water-filled trenches surrounded castles like slow-moving guardians. Crossing one without sinking, or being caught by defensive spikes was nearly impossible. Some moats were dry but lined with sharpened stakes, forcing attackers to expose themselves, long enough for archers to rain arrows from above. The castle itself became a weapon. Every wall, gate, and tower carefully designed to maximize fear, control, and lethality. Inside, lords and their engineers debated endlessly. Which gate should be reinforced? Which wall could withstand siege engines? Where should soldiers be stationed? Every decision mattered, for even a small mistake could mean disaster. Siege tactics evolved alongside castle defenses. Attackers would build massive towers to scale walls, dig tunnels to collapse foundations, or catapult fire and rocks to break morale. Every castle had to be prepared for months of siege, which meant stockpiling food, water, and arms while ensuring escape routes were either non-existent or secret. But defense wasn't only about practicality, it was psychological warfare. The imposing height of the walls, the smell of animals in the dungeons, the constant presence of armed guards, and the sheer impossibility of entry sent a clear message. This fortress is untouchable. To look upon a hilltop castle from below was to understand your place in the feudal hierarchy, small, powerless, and observed. Even courtyards and halls were designed with defense in mind. Staircases were narrow, forcing intruders to advance one at a time. Gatehouses were layered like traps, where attackers could be trapped and neutralized. Every arrow slit, murder hole, and battlement was carefully calculated. A marriage of engineering, art, and ruthless strategy. The castle had become the ultimate statement of authority. It wasn't just where the Lord lived, but where power was displayed in 3 dimensions: height, thickness, and the sheer audacity of the design told peasants, enemies and allies alike, I am here, I am prepared, I am invincible. And for centuries, these strategies would define the battlefield, the skyline, and the imagination of all who saw them. Inside the stone fortress, life was a strange mix of grandeur and constant tension. Lords and ladies lived in halls that seemed majestic, but every corner whispered caution. Servants scurried along corridors, carrying food, water, and messages, always under the watchful eyes of guards. Every gesture mattered, every step could be noted, every word could carry weight. Trust was scarce, suspicion abundant. Feasts were both celebration and strategy. Long wooden tables groaned under roasted meats, bread, and ale, while lords observed not just their guests, but the servants. A missing loaf, a spilled cup, a glance in the wrong direction. All could be interpreted as betrayal. The castle's dining hall wasn't merely for eating. It was a stage for power, hierarchy, and control. The servants themselves were masters of adaptation. Some were cooks, blacksmiths, or masons. Others, tasked with carrying orders or guarding secret passages, understood that their survival depended on discretion. Every stone corridor, every staircase, every hidden door could mean life or death, and they learned to move as shadows, quiet and invisible, all while the lord above paced and pondered. Sleep was rare for the castle's ruler. Paranoia never rested. Nights were filled with the distant sounds of the countryside, a dog barking, the creak of timber, the flutter of a bird, and every noise could signal trouble. The Lord inspected the defenses relentlessly. The drawbridge, the moat, the gates, the arrow slits. Were the guards alert? Were supplies secure? Could an enemy breach the walls? Every decision was a gamble, every oversight potentially fatal. And yet, amidst fear and vigilance, castles were centers of culture, innovation, and craftsmanship. Stone walls bore carved reliefs. Tapestries lined the halls. Skilled artisans designed everything from furniture to armor. Every detail reinforced authority, pride, and status. The castle wasn't just a home or fortress. It was a living, breathing symbol of dominance. From below, the village watched, worked, and worshipped the towering fortress. Inside, life was a delicate balance of labor, leisure, and constant alertness. Every meal, every step, every glance reinforced the hierarchy. And as the sun set behind the stone walls, the Lord would look from the highest tower, seeing both his power and the fragility of those who served him. The castle was more than stone. It was a world where ambition, fear, and control intertwined. A kingdom within walls, a city of shadows, a testament to the human desire to survive, impress, and endure. Beyond the towering walls and deep moats, life in a castle was constantly threatened. Every lord knew that no matter how strong the stone or how deep the moat, enemies would always come. Siege warfare was the ultimate test of a fortress, and of everyone inside it. Attackers arrived with massive towers, battering rams, and catapults. The air would tremble with the sound of stone and wood colliding, while defenders readied arrows, boiling oil, and every trap imaginable. A castle under siege was like a living organism. Guards ran along walls and battlements, shouting warnings, pulling levers, and releasing flaming projectiles. Every arrow slit became a deadly window. Every murder hole a surprise for intruders below. Inside, the Lord coordinated tirelessly, rationing food, maintaining morale, and ensuring that every soldier knew their post. One mistake could mean death, for guards, peasants, and the Lord alike. Attackers used clever tricks. They dug tunnels beneath walls, trying to collapse towers or create secret entrances. Siege engines hurled rocks, fire, and disease. Psychological warfare was equally potent, sending prisoners, spreading rumors, or trying to starve defenders into surrender. And yet, the castle's design often turned these attacks against them. Curving walls funneled enemies into kill zones. Narrow staircases limited numbers, and hidden passages allowed defenders to strike unexpectedly. Defending a castle wasn't only about brute strength. Every hill, moat, and wall was part of a strategy that combined geography, engineering, and human cunning. Archers fired from high vantage points. Boiling oil rained on ladders, and spies moved secretly to disrupt the enemy's plans. Patience was key. Sometimes the siege lasted months, forcing attackers and defenders alike to endure hunger, cold, and relentless tension. Inside, life continued amidst chaos. Peasants and servants carried water, tended fires, and reinforced weak points. Every small act mattered. Every stone and every plank became a line of defense. The Lord, perched in the highest tower, watched the dance of war unfold below, calculating, planning, and reminding all who dared look up that this castle was not merely a home. It was a machine of survival, intimidation, and enduring power. When the siege ended, victorious or not, the castle stood as a testament to strategy, engineering, and human determination. Every scar in the stone told a story of courage, cunning, and the relentless struggle to survive in a world where power was measured in walls, height, and the fear you inspired. Once the immediate threats of siege and attack were managed, lords turned their attention to another kind of war, the war of prestige. Stone castles were not only defensive fortresses, they were symbols of wealth, power, and influence. The taller the tower, the deeper the moat, the more intricate the battlements. Each addition was a statement, a silent brag to rivals and neighbors alike. Luxury found its way into even the most fortified walls. Great halls were adorned with tapestries depicting battles and legends. Carved fireplaces cast warmth across stone floors. Stables held prized horses, while pantries overflowed with preserved food, wine, and spices. Every room, corridor, and tower spoke of status, designed not only to impress guests but to remind the Lord himself of his superiority. Castles evolved like living organisms, expanding with each generation. Courtyards grew larger. Walls were thickened, towers added, and hidden chambers constructed. Lords often competed with neighboring estates, sending masons, carpenters, and artists into feverish labor. One could almost hear the unspoken challenge. My keep is taller, my halls grander, my wealth greater. This race for grandeur was not without strain. Laborers and peasants toiled endlessly, hauling stone, mixing mortar, and constructing elaborate defenses and luxuries alike. It could take decades to complete a single expansion, but for the Lord, it was worth every exhausted worker and every aching ox. The castle was as much a playground for ambition as it was a defensive structure. Yet, even in this pursuit of luxury, caution never left the Lord's mind. Secret passages were added alongside banquet halls. Guard rooms were hidden behind lavish tapestries. The juxtaposition of opulence and vigilance was striking. The Lord could entertain guests with grandeur while never lowering his guard. Every addition served dual purposes: comfort for some, terror for others, and an undeniable assertion of dominance. The competition was constant, fierce, and creative. Lords would commission sculptures, towers, and even gardens, all designed to make their neighbors envious and their enemies wary. And in doing so, castles transformed from mere fortresses into complex statements of human ambition, places where strategy, art, and ego collided, leaving behind monuments that would endure for centuries. From afar, the castles were awe-inspiring. From within, they were intricate worlds of power, paranoia, and prestige. And as the sun set behind stone battlements, the Lord surveyed their domains, knowing that every tower, moat, and lavish hall was a testament not only to survival, but to legacy. Beyond the grandeur and paranoia, castles were alive with the constant rhythm of daily duty. Soldiers marched along battlements, their armor clinking with every step. Archers positioned themselves in narrow arrow slits, ever ready to strike. Sentries kept watch day and night, scanning the horizon for any hint of danger. Life for those tasked with defense was relentless, a mixture of discipline, fear, and pride. But castles were not merely practical fortresses. They were also vessels of stories and legends. Every corridor, tower, and hidden chamber had a tale attached. Some whispered of secret treasures buried beneath the keep. Others spoke of hidden tunnels used to escape sieges. Ghost stories circulated among servants and guards alike. Tales of betrayed lords, vengeful spirits, or the restless souls of fallen warriors. The castle, in essence, became a living legend, a place where myth and reality intertwined. Soldiers trained endlessly. They practiced archery in damp courtyards, tested battering rams, and learned to move silently through the winding halls. Their survival depended not only on skill, but on the castle's defenses. Every wall, tower, and moat was a partner in battle. Each soldier knew that even a single lapse in vigilance could be catastrophic. Siege warfare was brutal, and every arrow fired or stone hurled might be the difference between life and death. Yet life inside the castle had its rituals. Meals were communal, but always under watchful eyes. Supplies were carefully rationed during tense times, and work never ceased. Soldiers maintained walls, repaired damages from weather or conflict, and reinforced gates. In quieter moments, Stories were told, songs sung, and legends recounted, all serving to strengthen morale and connect the living to the castle's history. The castle, therefore, was more than stone and mortar. It was a living organism, pulsing with duty, fear, pride, and myth. It held the stories of countless lives, from lords plotting dominion to soldiers ensuring survival. And as night fell, torches flickering along the walls, the castle seemed almost alive, a testament to human ambition, strategy, and imagination. From the outside, one could see the silhouette of towers against the sky, hear the distant clang of armor, and feel the echo of centuries. The legends, the myths, and the daily life within made castles not just fortresses, but timeless monuments to the enduring complexity of human society. Beyond the stone walls and defensive towers, castles were hubs of activity, celebration, and ritual. Life was structured, every day guided by routines that balanced work, survival, and spectacle. Lords and ladies observed the calendar meticulously, marking feasts, religious ceremonies, and seasonal festivals. These events were not only for enjoyment but also a display of wealth, power, and control over the people who served them. Festivals filled the courtyards with color and sound. Music floated from stone walls as minstrels performed, dancers twirled, and the aroma of roasted meats and fresh bread spread across the castle. Even servants, peasants, and soldiers had roles in these grand occasions. Some cooked and prepared the halls, others arranged decorations or maintained security, ensuring that celebration did not descend into chaos. Every performance, every decoration, every feast reinforced hierarchy, a vivid reminder of who ruled and who served. Daily life was just as regimented. Lords oversaw the administration of lands, addressed disputes, and inspected defenses, while ladies managed households, supervised servants, and ensured that the castle's inner workings ran smoothly. Soldiers trained, patrolled, and maintained fortifications. Peasants from surrounding villages brought goods, paid taxes, or worked on castle lands, their labor sustaining the fortress as much as any wall or moat. Religious ceremonies added another layer to castle life. Chapels and shrines within walls hosted prayers and services, blending devotion with politics. Nobility used these gatherings to display piety, reinforcing divine authority while subtly reminding visitors of their temporal power. Even small rituals, lighting candles, raising banners, or attending mass, were woven into the daily tapestry of castle life, ensuring that every moment reinforced status and obedience. Despite grandeur, tension lingered. The shadow of siege or betrayal was never far. Yet within these walls, life persisted, combining fear, pride, and routine. Every feast, every festival, every small daily task contributed to the survival of both the castle and its social order. From the heights of the towers, the castle looked majestic, a living center of power, ritual, and daily toil. It was a place where every stone and corridor held meaning, where human ambition, duty, and ceremony intersected, and where history was carved not only in stone, but in the lives of everyone who called it home. As centuries passed, the age of castles slowly faded. Technology, politics, and warfare evolved, and what once made a fortress invincible now became obsolete. Cannons and gunpowder changed the rules of siege, making walls that had once seemed indestructible vulnerable to destruction. The towering keeps and thick battlements that had dominated valleys and hills could no longer guarantee safety. Lords adapted, building new defenses. But the era of true medieval castles, stone monuments to paranoia, ambition, and status, was coming to an end. Many fortresses were abandoned, left to the mercy of time, weather, and neglect. Wooden structures rotted, stone walls cracked, and ivy crept along once mighty towers. The castles that had defended lands and inspired awe slowly became ruins, echoes of a past dominated by knights, lords, and relentless ambition. Yet even in decline, castles retained power, not military, but symbolic. They stood as monuments to history, artistry, and human ingenuity. The villages that had once served them looked up at crumbling towers, remembering tales of siege, feasts, and lords who had shaped their lives. The stories carved into walls, the scars of battles, and the hidden corridors became legends, inspiring writers, painters, and, centuries later, filmmakers. Some castles were transformed into homes of comfort, while others became tourist attractions, museums, or romantic ruins. What had been weapons of war turned into monuments of memory, places where imagination and history intertwined. Stone, once raised for defense and power, now stood as a testament to ambition, resilience, and creativity. And so, castles became timeless. No longer practical fortresses, they became symbols of human desire to protect, to impress, to endure. They remind us that even in stone and mortar, life is fleeting, ambitions evolve, and stories endure. From hilltops, riversides, and valleys, these monuments whisper to the modern observer. We were built to last, not just against enemies, but against the forgetfulness of time itself. As castles stood through centuries, they became more than stone and mortar. They became vessels of legend and myth. Every wall, tower, and hidden passage held stories that blurred the line between reality and imagination. Tales of ghosts wandering empty halls, secret treasure hidden beneath keeps, and heroic knights defending against impossible odds circulated among villagers, soldiers, and travelers alike. These stories ensured that castles were never silent, even long after their defensive purpose faded. The cultural impact of castles was profound. Writers and poets drew inspiration from their looming silhouettes, crafting epic tales of chivalry, betrayal, and romance. Minstrels sang songs of legendary sieges, while painters and later filmmakers captured the drama of castle life. Each castle, whether crumbling or well-maintained, became a symbol of human ambition and imagination, a stage where the human desire for power, love, and survival played out over centuries. Inside, soldiers and servants also contributed to the mythology. Their whispered stories of apparitions, secret tunnels, and heroic deeds added layers to the castle's identity. Over time, some legends even influenced architecture itself. Towers were designed to appear taller, battlements more menacing, and hidden chambers more mysterious, feeding the tales that would endure for generations. Castles also shaped the identity of regions. Villages grew around them, local economies relied on their presence, and festivals often commemorated events linked to the fortress. Even when their military relevance waned, castles remained central to community life, embodying history, authority, and imagination. The mystique of castles continues today. Tourists wander their halls, imagining the lives of those who once walked the same corridors. Stories of valor, treachery, and romance still captivate, reminding us that castles were never merely defensive structures. They were, and remain, monuments to human creativity, endurance, and the timeless allure of legend. Castles were not just fortresses. They were classrooms of architectural innovation. Every stone placed, every wall raised, and every tower constructed reflected a balance of necessity, creativity, and ambition. Over centuries, designs evolved from simple wooden, Motte and Bailey structures to massive stone keeps, incorporating lessons learned from sieges, climate, and geography. Defensive features like arrow slits, murder holes, and concentric walls were not merely functional. They showcased ingenuity and foresight. The evolution of castle architecture also influenced civilian buildings. Noble estates, town halls, and even early universities borrowed elements from castles: thick walls for security, towers for observation, and strategic layouts for efficiency. The Gothic cathedrals that arose later carried echoes of castle design: soaring heights, pointed arches, and intricate stonework reflecting both strength and aesthetic ambition. Castles were, in many ways, the blueprint for a visual vocabulary that defined medieval Europe. Within castle walls, masons, engineers, and craftsmen perfected techniques that would shape construction for centuries. Vaulted ceilings, spiral staircases, and defensive parapets were innovations born from necessity, yet many became architectural statements. The castle was a laboratory of creativity, where the need to survive met the desire to impress. Furthermore, castles influenced urban planning. Towns often developed around fortresses, using their protection as a foundation for commerce, governance, and culture. Streets, marketplaces, and civic structures aligned with the castle's walls, creating organized, defensible, and symbolic communities. The legacy of this planning can still be seen in the layout of many European towns today. Even today, architects draw inspiration from castle design. The balance of defense and aesthetics, the use of elevation and sightlines, and the blend of functionality with grandeur continue to inform modern constructions. Castles remain a reminder that architecture is not merely about building structures, but about shaping societies, projecting power, and leaving a lasting imprint on history. While castles towered over hills and valleys, life for the peasants surrounding them was a delicate balance of labor, loyalty, and survival. These villagers formed the backbone of the castle economy. They farmed the land, raised livestock, and provided essential goods that sustained both the castle's inhabitants and its defensive operations. Every harvest, every animal tended, Every delivery of food or materials was intertwined with the castle's survival. Peasants were acutely aware of the hierarchy. Their lives revolved around the demands of the lord, who controlled land, justice, and protection. They paid taxes, delivered supplies, and worked on construction projects. In return, the lord offered defense, shelter during raids, and sometimes access to markets and festivals. Yet the relationship was complex. Lords were both protectors and oppressors, their decisions influencing daily life in ways both subtle and profound. Trade and economy flourished in castle towns. Blacksmiths, carpenters, bakers, and weavers found work within the shadow of the fortress. Markets thrived on castle days, when lords held feasts, tournaments, or judicial gatherings. These events became economic engines, stimulating commerce and creating temporary booms that shaped the livelihoods of countless families. Interaction between peasants and lords was formal and ritualized. When presenting taxes, goods, or services, villagers approached the castle with respect, knowing the eyes of guards, stewards, and the lord himself were watching. Festivals or harvest celebrations allowed for brief reprieve, moments where peasants could witness the grandeur of castle life and perhaps share in the splendor, if only for a day. Despite the hardships, this symbiotic relationship sustained medieval society. Castles were not isolated monuments. They were centers of economic, social, and political activity. The labor of peasants allowed lords to build, defend, and embellish their fortresses. In turn, these fortresses provided order, protection, and structure to the surrounding lands. The castle economy was a complex ecosystem where ambition, survival, and interdependence coexisted under stone walls that dominated the landscape. Beyond the walls and battlements, castles were centers of spectacle where knights, lords, and peasants came together for tournaments and festivals. These events were more than entertainment. They were a vivid display of power, skill, and hierarchy. Tournaments tested strength, strategy, and courage, with armored knights jousting for glory and the admiration of all who watched. The courtyards transformed into arenas of drama. Flags fluttered in the wind, banners proclaimed the coat of arms of noble houses, and the air vibrated with cheers and the clash of steel. Knights practiced martial skills not only to prepare for war but to impress, earning prestige that could enhance their lord's reputation. The spectacle reinforced social order. The nobility showcased skill and wealth, while peasants admired, celebrated, and sometimes participated in simpler competitions. Feasts often followed tournaments. Long tables groaned under roasted meats, fresh bread, and wine. Minstrels played, dancers performed, and jesters entertained. Festivals combined celebration with subtle reminders of hierarchy: who sat at the high table, who served, and who watched from below. Every gesture, every seating arrangement, every ceremony reinforced the social structure that the castle upheld. The culture of knights was central to these events. Chivalry, loyalty, and prowess were not only ideals but expectations. Knights were symbols of protection and power, but also of competition. Lords encouraged these displays to maintain morale, demonstrate military readiness, and impress allies or intimidate rivals. Armor, weapons, and heraldry became extensions of identity, signaling status as much as skill. Even outside festivals, castle life echoed with the influence of these traditions. Training grounds were busy with drills. Stables housed prized horses, and corridors echoed with the footsteps of guards and knights alike. Tournaments and festivals were not merely occasional diversions. They were integral to the identity of castles, places where martial skill, culture, and social hierarchy intertwined in dazzling displays of medieval life. Castles were built to endure, but they were not invincible. Throughout history, countless fortresses faced sieges, testing the ingenuity of defenders and the persistence of attackers. Siege warfare was a brutal game of strategy, patience, and adaptation. Attackers brought ladders, battering rams, catapults, and sometimes even early cannons, attempting to breach walls that had been designed to withstand centuries. Defenders, in response, developed clever and often terrifying defenses. Moats were deepened or filled with spikes. Boiling oil and water poured from murder holes, and archers took positions in narrow slits to maximize their reach, while minimizing risk. Secret passages allowed sorties or escapes, and traps were hidden in staircases, corridors, and courtyards. Every stone of the castle was part of a living system of survival. Some sieges became legendary for their audacity and duration. Villages would watch as armies camped for weeks, sometimes months, surrounding a fortress while defenders rationed supplies and kept morale high. Stories of clever tactics emerged, a single archer holding a wall against dozens, a hidden tunnel allowing reinforcements to appear behind enemy lines, or psychological tricks that caused attackers to panic and retreat. These battles became the stuff of legend, inspiring tales of heroism and cunning that survived long after the walls crumbled. Inside the castle, tension was relentless. Soldiers drilled constantly. Scouts monitored the horizon, and lords coordinated every defensive maneuver. Even during prolonged sieges, daily routines persisted. Food had to be cooked, repairs made, and morale maintained. The castle was both home and battlefield, a stage where courage, strategy, and endurance collided. In the end, castles were more than stone fortresses. They were symbols of human ingenuity and resilience. Each siege tested not just walls and weapons, but the spirit of those within. The stories of these battles, passed down through generations, ensured that castles remained immortal, monuments to defense, strategy, and the enduring drama of medieval life. As castles grew older and lords sought to display both power and taste, expansions became a hallmark of ambition. Stone walls stretched outward, towers reached higher, and courtyards grew larger, often without compromising the fortress's defensive strength. Every new addition was a statement, a demonstration that the lord had the resources, vision, and skill to shape the landscape itself. Hidden chambers and secret passages became increasingly common. Some were designed to store valuables, others to hide inhabitants during attacks. Certain rooms were only accessible to those who knew the precise sequence of levers. Hidden doors or false walls, these secret spaces contributed to both safety and intrigue, creating an aura of mystery that would captivate visitors and inspire legends. Architects and masons had to balance functionality with creativity, ensuring that each addition served multiple purposes: defense, comfort, and prestige. Innovation was key. Spiral staircases were engineered to favor right-handed defenders against ascending enemies. Murder holes, arrow slits, and fortified gates were integrated seamlessly into halls and corridors. Even gardens and courtyards were designed with strategy in mind, offering open spaces for visibility, yet controlled to prevent enemy advantage. The castle itself became a puzzle, a labyrinth of power and design that was both awe-inspiring and intimidating. Expansions were also symbolic. Each new tower, fortified hall, or ornate room reinforced the lord's status among peers and subjects. Neighboring estates might respond with their own ambitious projects, sparking a silent competition that drove architectural innovation. Builders and laborers, often working under harsh conditions, became part of a grand experiment in creativity and engineering, leaving behind structures that combined beauty, practicality, and psychological dominance. Ultimately, these castles were more than homes or fortresses. They were living embodiments of ambition, strategy, and artistry. The interplay of stone, space, and secrecy created an environment where every corridor, chamber, and tower reflected human ingenuity. As lords gazed from their highest towers, they could see the result of decades of labor, a fortress that was a masterpiece, a monument and a machine of survival all at once. Winter brought a new kind of challenge to medieval castles. The stone walls that protected against invaders also trapped cold, making interiors damp and bitter. Snow and ice could block roads, slow deliveries, and isolate the castle for days or even weeks. Life inside required preparation, discipline, and resourcefulness to endure the harsh months while maintaining security and function. Peasants and servants played a crucial role in winter survival. Fires had to be constantly fed to keep great halls, kitchens, and sleeping quarters warm. Food stores were rationed carefully. Salted meats, dried grains, and preserved vegetables ensured that lords, soldiers, and workers could last through long periods of scarcity. Water sources had to be cleared of ice, and animals in stables were tended meticulously to prevent losses that could devastate the castle's economy. Defensive readiness never stopped, even in winter. Snow and ice could make walls slippery, gates harder to operate, and siege equipment less effective, both for attackers and defenders. Scouts braved frozen landscapes, watching for threats, while archers adapted to icy battlements. Even routine maintenance became critical, as freezing temperatures could crack stone, damage wooden structures, and strain the castle's infrastructure. Despite the hardships, winter also brought moments of human ingenuity and comfort. Large fireplaces in halls became gathering spots where lords and soldiers shared warmth, conversation, and sometimes storytelling. Lanterns and torches illuminated corridors where stone shadows stretched unnervingly long. Winter festivals offered brief reprieve. Small celebrations, hearty meals, and communal activities reminded inhabitants of life beyond survival. Ultimately, the castle in winter was both fortress and haven. Its thick walls shielded from cold and threat alike. Its halls filled with the sound of labor, vigilance, and human perseverance. Life in such conditions demanded endurance, strategy, and cooperation. Every snow-laden tower, frozen courtyard, and ice-coated battlement stood as proof of medieval resilience, a testament to how humans adapted architecture, labor, and community to survive even the harshest seasons. Castles were stages for stories that blurred the line between history and legend. Within their walls, heroism and betrayal intertwined, leaving tales that echoed across centuries. Knights and soldiers became living legends through daring deeds during sieges, clever defenses, or acts of loyalty that turned the tide of battles. Every victory was celebrated not only for survival, but as a testament to courage, skill, and ingenuity. Betrayals, however, were just as impactful. Secret alliances, spies, and treacherous advisors could endanger entire keeps. Stories of lords betrayed by those they trusted, gates opened by insiders, or entire armies deceived have become integral parts of castle lore. These events shaped not only battles but also policies, architectural decisions, and daily vigilance within fortresses. No lord underestimated the potential for deceit. Trust was always balanced with precaution. Celebrated victories often transformed castles into symbols of pride and power. A successfully defended siege could elevate a lord's reputation for decades, attracting allies, wealth, and influence. Towers were rebuilt taller, walls reinforced stronger, and celebrations would mark the triumph with feasts, tournaments, and public ceremonies. Songs and poems immortalized the deeds, ensuring that bravery, strategy, and loyalty would be remembered long after the stones weathered and walls crumbled. Legends also gave castles cultural weight. Heroes of battle became icons, inspiring generations, while tales of betrayal served as cautionary stories. Peasants and nobles alike passed down these narratives, intertwining history with myth, creating an enduring aura around the fortress. Every room, corridor, and battlement seemed alive with memory, echoing with the voices of those who lived, fought, and sometimes died within. In essence, castles were more than military structures. They were theaters of human drama, where courage, cunning, loyalty, and treachery played out in stone and mortar. These legends continue to capture the imagination, reminding us that behind every wall and tower, history is not just built, it is lived. As time marched forward, castles gradually lost their military relevance. The rise of gunpowder, cannons, and more modern fortifications made traditional walls and towers less effective against determined armies. Many fortresses, once symbols of power and protection, became obsolete. Lords abandoned some, relocated to more comfortable estates, or repurposed their castles into palatial homes. Nature quickly began reclaiming these monumental structures. Stone walls cracked under weathering. Ivy and moss crept across towers, and wooden elements rotted away. Some castles fell entirely into ruin, left as silent witnesses to centuries of ambition, conquest, and human drama. Despite decay, their stories remained alive, recorded in chronicles, poems, and the oral traditions of local communities. The 18th and 19th centuries marked a shift. Castles that had long been abandoned or neglected became objects of fascination. Romanticism, with its love for ruins and nostalgia, cast medieval fortresses as mysterious, dramatic, and picturesque. Artists painted them, writers immortalized them in novels, and travelers sought them as destinations, capturing the imagination of a world far removed from siege warfare. Eventually, preservation efforts began. Castles were restored, partially rebuilt, and converted into museums, tourist attractions, and heritage sites. Today, they serve not as weapons of war, but as cultural icons, education centers, and symbols of national history. Their towering walls now inspire awe rather than fear, allowing visitors to walk through corridors that once echoed with armor and strategy, and glimpse the lives of those who shaped history. Castles, in their decline and transformation, remind us that human creations can outlast their original purpose. They are monuments of ambition, ingenuity, and artistry, enduring symbols of a time when stone, strategy, and society intertwined to create structures that continue to captivate centuries later. Castles have transcended their original purpose. Once formidable fortresses built for defense, displays of wealth and social dominance, they are now timeless symbols that blend history, myth, and culture. Their walls tell stories of ambition, heroism, betrayal, celebration, and survival. Narratives that continue to captivate and inspire. Today, castles serve multiple roles. They are cultural landmarks, tourist attractions, and educational resources. Visitors walk through grand halls, climb towers, and explore dungeons, imagining life in a world defined by sword, stone, and strategy. Artists, filmmakers, and writers draw inspiration from their imposing silhouettes and hidden corners, creating works that keep the medieval imagination alive. Beyond aesthetics, castles remain lessons in human ingenuity. The defensive techniques, architectural innovations, and urban planning that emerged from castle design continue to influence modern architecture and engineering. Secret passages, strategic layouts, and clever use of geography illustrate a timeless balance of creativity, practicality, and foresight. Even as centuries pass, castles maintain a psychological impact. Towering above hills, perched along river bends or guarding valleys, they embody resilience, power, and the human desire to leave a lasting mark. Legends of knights, feasts, sieges, and ceremonies imbue these structures with a life that stone alone cannot capture. They are monuments to ambition, perseverance, and imagination. In the end, castles are more than historical artifacts. They are living symbols of human creativity and endurance, connecting the past to the present. Whether crumbling in ruins, restored to former glory, or serving as museums, they continue to inspire wonder. As we gaze upon a castle, we see not just stone and mortar, but centuries of stories, struggles, and triumphs. A testament that while time moves forward, the human desire to build, protect, and inspire remains eternal. Castles were not just cold, defensive structures built of stone and mortar. They were living canvases of ambition, power, and artistry. While the primary purpose of a castle was protection and domination, lords quickly realized that appearances mattered almost as much as defenses. Walls became galleries, halls turned into stages, and every corridor had the potential to showcase wealth, taste, and influence. Tapestries were one of the most striking forms of decoration. Large, colorful, and detailed, they depicted battles won, legendary heroes, and family lineage. Not only did these textiles provide insulation against damp, cold stone, but they also told stories to all who entered the castle. Murals and frescoes adorned chapel walls, halls, and even private chambers. They reflected religious devotion, political power, and aesthetic sensibilities. Every painting, every carving, communicated a message. This lord was not only powerful but cultured, intelligent, and deserving of respect. Coats of arms and heraldic symbols became central to castle identity. Displayed on banners, shields, and over gates, they reinforced family pride, military victories, and alliances. A visitor could gauge the lord's power and lineage simply by observing the symbols, creating an immediate sense of social hierarchy. Even doorways and staircases were meticulously designed, blending utility with visual impact. Skilled craftsmen, masons, sculptors, painters, and woodworkers were essential to this artistry. The construction of a castle was never just engineering. It was a collaboration of vision and skill. Every carved archway, decorative stone relief, and ornate fireplace reflected human creativity molded in stone. Castles became more than fortresses. They were living monuments, blending protection, functionality, and art. Through decoration, lords communicated their stories, ambitions, and identities across generations. A visitor entering a castle was not only stepping into a stronghold but immersing themselves in a narrative of power, pride, and culture. In every hall, chamber, and courtyard, castles silently broadcasted the values, wealth, and taste of their inhabitants, proving that medieval architecture was as much about expression as defense. Behind the thick stone walls and towering battlements, castles thrived on one essential element: food. Life inside a fortress was sustained by vast, bustling kitchens where cooks, bakers, and servants worked tirelessly. These kitchens were not just rooms but sprawling centers of activity, filled with roaring fires, giant cauldrons, and the constant aroma of roasted meats, freshly baked bread, and simmering stews. The castle's survival depended on their efficiency and organization. Preparing meals was both a logistical challenge and a display of wealth. Ingredients were sourced from surrounding lands, game hunted in forests, vegetables grown in gardens, and grains harvested from nearby fields, for lords who could afford it. Exotic spices traveled from distant lands, transforming ordinary dishes into sumptuous feasts that impressed guests and reinforced status. Every banquet was carefully orchestrated to demonstrate the lord's power, taste, and generosity. Feasts were social events as much as sustenance. Banquet halls echoed with laughter, music from minstrels, and the clinking of goblets. Seating arrangements were strictly hierarchical. Nobles at the high table, knights in the middle, and servants consuming the leftovers. Meals reinforced social structures, subtly reminding everyone of their place in the castle hierarchy. Kitchens also prepared for emergencies, storing preserved meats, dried grains, and salted fish to survive sieges or harsh winters. Firewood had to be maintained, water brought from wells, and food rationed carefully. Life inside a castle depended on this constant, often invisible labor. Servants and cooks were unsung heroes, their work blending survival, artistry, and diplomacy. Even daily meals became rituals of order, reinforcing loyalty and hierarchy. A single dinner reflected centuries of organization, culture, and planning. The castle's kitchens were its beating heart, a place where survival met spectacle, and where the labor of many allowed the lord's life to be not only secure but grand. Castles were impressive, but their very purpose invited conflict. As fortresses grew stronger, attackers devised ever more complex strategies to breach walls and conquer territory. Siege warfare became a deadly art, combining brute force, cunning, and patience. Armies relied on a range of tools: battering rams to break gates, catapults and trebuchets to hurl stones, and later, early cannons to pierce even the thickest walls. Every assault tested the limits of engineering, strategy, and human endurance. Defenders responded with ingenuity. Moats were deepened or filled with spikes. Arrow slits allowed archers to fire while staying protected, and murder holes above gates poured boiling oil or water on attackers. Secret passages enabled surprise counterattacks, while fortified towers gave defenders the height advantage. Every stone, gate, and turret became part of a defensive system designed to outsmart the enemy. Sieges were as much psychological as physical. Attackers attempted to demoralize defenders by cutting off supplies, spreading rumors, or pretending to retreat. Defenders, in turn, relied on resourcefulness, rationing food, repairing damage quickly, and maintaining morale. Stories of sieges often include heroism, a single archer holding a wall against dozens, or clever tactics that forced an enemy army to retreat in confusion. The evolution of siege warfare influenced castle architecture dramatically. High walls, angled bastions, and complex gate systems became standard, reflecting lessons learned from centuries of attack and defense. The ongoing struggle between offense and defense drove technological and tactical innovations, making castles living laboratories of military science. Ultimately, every siege was a clash of human ingenuity, courage, and endurance. Castles were not static monuments. They were adaptive, resilient structures shaped by the relentless pressures of war. They stand today not only as symbols of power, but as testaments to the creativity and determination of those who built, defended, and sometimes conquered them. Knights were central figures within castles, embodying both martial skill and social prestige. Life for a knight was a balance of rigorous training, strategic duties, and participation in the social hierarchy of medieval life. From a young age, boys destined to become knights learned horsemanship, swordsmanship, archery, and tactics, often beginning as pages and squires in service to a lord before earning knighthood. Daily life revolved around preparation for battle, yet it extended beyond mere fighting. Knights trained constantly in courtyards and halls, practiced duels, and participated in tournaments that tested their skill, courage, and reputation. Armor was both protection and status symbol, while heraldry displayed family lineage and achievements. Knights were often responsible for overseeing soldiers, maintaining sections of the castle, and acting as advisors to their lord. Beyond the battlefield, knights engaged in diplomacy and courtly life. They attended feasts, ceremonies, and gatherings, representing their lord's interests and forming alliances. Through social interaction, honor, loyalty, and etiquette were as important as martial prowess. A knight's reputation could influence political relationships, marriages, and territorial negotiations. During sieges, knights played crucial roles in both defense and strategy. They coordinated guards, led sorties, and reinforced weak points in the fortifications. Every decision could determine the survival of the castle, requiring a combination of bravery, intelligence, and quick thinking. Life inside a castle was disciplined, yet also filled with camaraderie, competition, and prestige. Knights were more than warriors. They were symbols of the castle's strength, embodying its martial spirit and social hierarchy. Their presence reinforced order, loyalty, and tradition within the fortress, making them essential to both defense and culture. In essence, knights personified the living heart of medieval castles, blending courage, strategy, and nobility in a world built of stone and ambition. While castles are often remembered for knights, lords, and battles, women played indispensable roles within these stone fortresses. Noble women managed the household, supervised servants, and oversaw estates, ensuring the smooth operation of both domestic and economic affairs. Their influence extended far beyond the walls of kitchens and chambers. They were administrators, diplomats, and sometimes even military strategists during times of crisis. Daily life for women in castles involved an intricate balance of responsibility and social expectation. They supervised the production of food, textiles, and other necessities, coordinated celebrations and ceremonies, and educated children in matters of etiquette, literacy, and religion. Noble women were often expected to maintain alliances through correspondence, negotiation, or arranging marriages, making them critical players in the political and social life of the castle. During sieges or attacks, women occasionally assumed leadership roles. There are records of noble women organizing defenses, managing supplies, and inspiring morale among servants and soldiers. They understood the fortress's strategic and practical dimensions, and their decisions could determine the survival of the household and those within it. Beyond administrative duties, women also influenced cultural life. They commissioned art, music, and tapestries, leaving enduring legacies within castle walls. These contributions reflected not only taste and refinement, but also reinforced the family's status and power. In essence, women shaped the identity, operation, and even the architecture of castles, blending intellect, creativity, and authority. Despite the constraints of medieval society, women's roles were vital to castle life. They ensured survival, preserved social structures, and contributed to the culture and legacy of the fortress. Castles were not merely male-dominated arenas of war. They were complex ecosystems where women's leadership, wisdom, and resilience were indispensable to both daily life and the preservation of history. While lords, knights, and noble women often dominate the history of castles, the lives of servants were the hidden foundation of medieval fortress life. Servants performed essential work that kept the castle functional, from cleaning and cooking to maintaining fires, repairing structures, and hauling supplies. Without their tireless labor, even the most imposing castle would crumble under daily pressures. Life for a servant was demanding and dangerous. Long hours, minimal comforts, and strict hierarchies defined their routines. Many tasks involved physical labor, hauling water from wells, chopping firewood, or carrying heavy stones for maintenance. Servants were also expected to adapt to sudden emergencies, from responding to fires or breaches in security to assisting during sieges. Their work was unglamorous, yet vital to survival. Yet within these demanding roles, servants often held secret influence. They overheard private conversations, observed power dynamics, and became aware of vulnerabilities in the castle. Some used this knowledge strategically, gaining favors or subtly manipulating events. Stories tell of servants warning their masters of betrayal, concealing messages, or even participating in minor acts of rebellion. Their perspective offered insight into the intimate and often precarious life of a fortress. Despite their low status, servants contributed to the culture and memory of the castle. Through their labor, knowledge, and vigilance, they ensured that daily life continued smoothly. They maintained the routines that allowed noble ambitions to thrive, often shaping outcomes without ever being formally acknowledged. In essence, servants were the invisible threads holding the castle together. They navigated a complex web of authority, survival, and secrecy, blending endurance, skill, and subtle influence. Every clean hallway, prepared meal, and repaired battlement bore witness to their quiet but indispensable role in the life of a medieval fortress. Castles were not merely fortresses of stone and defense. They were also spaces where life, leisure, and beauty intersected. Beyond the imposing walls and towers lay gardens, courtyards, and open spaces that balanced practicality with aesthetic appeal. These areas were essential to daily life, offering both sustenance and recreation for the inhabitants of the castle. Gardens served multiple purposes. Noble families cultivated fruits, vegetables, and herbs for food and medicine, ensuring a steady supply for daily meals and emergencies. Ornamental plants, flowers, and carefully designed layouts also demonstrated taste, wealth, and sophistication. A well-kept garden reflected the Lord's power and attention to detail, turning even the practical act of planting into a statement of status. Courtyards were the social and operational hearts of castles. They provided open spaces for training, gatherings, festivals, and markets. Knights could practice drills or jousting tournaments. Servants moved about with daily tasks, and entertainers performed for residents and guests. Courtyards also allowed better airflow and light into the otherwise dark interiors, making life inside the castle more bearable. Leisure areas, such as terraces, pavilions, and water features, created moments of tranquility. Fountains, ponds, and ornamental designs transformed functional spaces into places of beauty and contemplation. Nobles could enjoy fresh air, observe gardens, or watch activities below from balconies and towers. These elements combined utility and elegance, showcasing the integration of nature and architecture in medieval design. Through gardens and courtyards, castles became more than defensive structures. They were living spaces that blended work, strategy, and relaxation. They reflected the Lord's desire for control, beauty, and enjoyment, while serving practical needs of food production, training, and social life. Castles were thus dynamic ecosystems, fortresses, homes, and centers of culture, where every stone and plant contributed to survival, status, and splendor. Over the centuries, castles have grown beyond their stone walls and defensive purposes to become enduring symbols in literature, folklore, and modern popular culture. The echoes of medieval life, knights, battles, feasts, and intrigue, transformed into legends that continue to captivate imaginations. Around the world, these stories shaped how we perceive castles today, turning them into timeless icons of mystery, romance, and adventure. Medieval folklore is rich with tales of heroism, betrayal, and supernatural occurrences. Ghostly apparitions, secret passages, and hidden treasures became recurring themes in stories surrounding castles. From haunted towers to enchanted dungeons, these narratives blended historical fact with imaginative myth, adding layers of allure to the structures. Legends of brave knights defending their lords, cunning women outwitting invaders, or hidden treasures buried beneath battlements have been passed down through generations, enriching cultural memory. Literature and art have long celebrated the dramatic nature of castles. Romantic writers and painters of the 18th and 19th centuries depicted crumbling fortresses, perched on cliffs shrouded in mist, evoking a sense of nostalgia and awe. Novels, poetry, and later films drew inspiration from the imposing architecture and rich history, turning castles into settings for tales of love, intrigue, and power. Their towering walls and hidden chambers offered perfect metaphors for human ambition, fear, and desire. Modern media, from movies and television to video games, continues this tradition. Castles are often portrayed as kingdoms, battlegrounds, or mystical realms. They symbolize strength, legacy, and the passage of time, connecting audiences to history while igniting imagination. Even as stone, mortar, and timber age, the cultural life of castles thrives, fueled by storytelling, exploration, and creativity. In essence, castles are more than physical structures. They are vessels of myth and imagination. Each legend, each story, breathes life into the stones, transforming them into living monuments of human creativity, heroism, and enduring fascination. Through folklore and culture, castles remain eternal, inspiring awe long after their defensive purposes have faded. Many castles that once echoed with the clatter of swords and the bustle of daily life now stand as preserved monuments, connecting us to history and offering a glimpse into the past. These fortresses have transformed from centers of power into heritage sites and tourist attractions, drawing millions of visitors every year who are eager to explore their walls, towers, and stories. Preservation efforts ensure that the architecture, artwork, and artifacts within castles are maintained for future generations. Restoration projects carefully rebuild crumbling walls, repair towers, and stabilize foundations, while respecting the historical integrity of the structures. Museums within castles often display medieval weaponry, clothing, manuscripts, and household items, providing a tangible connection to the lives of those who once inhabited these formidable spaces. Tourism brings castles to life in new ways. Visitors climb towers for breathtaking views, wander through grand halls imagining feasts and ceremonies, and explore dungeons and hidden passages that once held secrets and mysteries. Guided tours, reenactments, And educational programs allow people of all ages to experience the social, cultural, and military aspects of castle life. These experiences turn history into something immersive and tangible, transforming stone walls into storytellers. Castles also generate economic and cultural value for their regions. Local communities benefit from tourism-related businesses, including hotels, restaurants, and artisan shops. Festivals and events held within castle grounds celebrate heritage, craftsmanship, and medieval culture, blending entertainment with education. The castle becomes a living hub where history, culture, and modern life intersect. In essence, castles serve as bridges between the past and present. They preserve the achievements, creativity, and resilience of medieval societies while inviting contemporary audiences to experience and learn from them. Each visit, each story shared, ensures that the legacy of castles endures, not just as ruins, but as vibrant, inspiring monuments to human ingenuity and imagination. As we reach the final chapter of our journey through medieval castles, it becomes clear that these structures are more than mere stone and mortar. They are enduring symbols of human ambition, creativity, and resilience. Castles were simultaneously homes, fortresses, and monuments built to protect, impress, and dominate. Today they stand as timeless reminders of the ingenuity and determination of those who constructed them. Each castle tells a story. The thick walls and towering keeps whisper of sieges endured, battles fought, and strategies devised. The decorated halls and ornate chambers speak of ambition, culture, and status. Every courtyard, garden, and corridor offers insight into daily life, the work of servants, the leadership of noblewomen, the training of knights, and the rituals of feasts and ceremonies. These stories are etched into every stone, immortalizing centuries of human experience. Castles also represent the evolution of human ingenuity. From the earliest wooden motte and bailey forts to imposing stone fortresses, each generation adapted designs to improve defense, comfort, and aesthetic appeal. They reflect the constant push for survival, status, and innovation, capturing the essence of medieval life in tangible form. Even ruins today inspire awe, teaching lessons about architecture, engineering, and strategic thinking. Beyond their historical significance, castles continue to inspire imagination and creativity. Legends, films, literature, and art draw on the grandeur, mystery, and drama of these fortresses. They remind us of the heights human ambition can reach, both literally, in their towering walls, and figuratively, in the creativity and determination required to build them. Ultimately, castles are timeless. They endure as monuments to human aspiration, resilience, and imagination. They remind us that while empires rise and fall, the legacies of vision, labor, and ambition can survive for centuries. In every stone and tower, they whisper a simple, enduring message. Human creativity, courage, and determination can leave marks that withstand the passage of time.